So today we'll be discussing on the psychological rehabilitation, and under this we'll see the adjustment, environmental and the personality development. So rehabilitation is the action of restoring someone to health or normal life through training and therapy after imprisonment, addiction or illness. So rehabilitation may refer to the action of restoring someone to former privilege or reputation after a period of disfavor. So rehabilitation is also the act of restoring something or someone that has been damaged to its former condition. Rehabilitation has also been defined as the combined and the coordinated use of medical, social, education and vocational measures for training and retraining the individual to the highest possible level of functional ability. So the term psychology, which derives its roots from the Greek term psyche, which means soul, is related to the scientific study of the human mind and its function, especially those affecting behavior in a given context. It may also be understood as the mental characteristics or attitude of a person or group. Thus, etymologically, psychological rehabilitation may be understood as a specific branch that deals with the action of restoring the psychological health of an individual by means of various activities, actions, or medicine that may lead to the efficient functioning of the individual. Psychological rehabilitation, also known as psychiatric rehabilitation and sometimes as psyche rehabilitation, is the process of restoring of the community functioning and the well-being of an individual diagnosed in the mental health or mental or emotional disorder and who may be considered to have psychological disability. In this lecture, our main area for discussion are adjustment, environmental and personality development with respect to psychological rehabilitation. So adjustment. In psychology, adjustment refers to the behavioral process of balancing conflicting needs or needs against obstacles in the environment. Humans regularly do this. For example, when they are stimulated by their psychological state to seek food, they eat to reduce their hunger and thus they adjust to the hunger stimulus. In general, the adjustment process involves 4 stages or parts. The first one is a need or a motive in the form of a strong persistent stimulus. Then the second is the thwarting or non-fulfillment of these needs. The third one is varied activity or exploratory behavior accompanied by problem solving and some response that removes or at least reduces the initiating stimulus and completes the adjustment. So adjustment in life is very crucial. When one fails to adjust, he or she invites mental stress, decline in health, worsened work efficiency, at times even exclusion from society. So some of the methods of adjustment are, first one is compensation. When an individual is not performing well in one aspect or sphere of life, he or she performs good at some other aspects, and this method is known as adjustment through compensation. Say for example, a child who is not good at academics may devote his efforts in sports activities such that he or she becomes an eminent player. The second one is rationalization. So one should try to think and rationally analyze the situation in case of any accident or misshape instead to putting the blame of own failure on some other person or thing, such as cursing one's destiny for meeting with an accident on fast and rash driving. The third one is identification. At times, we see a person who is an underachiever, boasting in front of others peoples of some of his relative or friend who is extremely accomplished. And this is called identification. In schools and colleges, such children or kids are also found boasting of their father's status. The fourth one is projection. Living one's own dream through some loved one is in most cases parents who try to live their dreams through their children or child. So putting on dreams on others. For instance, in earlier times when women were confined within the four walls of the house, when they may have wanted to do something in their life and were not allowed to do so. Today, in some cases, even the parents force their daughters to do something in life and live their dreams in the success of their daughters. The fifth one is daydream. Daydreaming gives relaxation to everyone, and some hour of the day we all use this mechanism. We imagine ourselves as what we desire to be. Environmental development. With the effects of genetic similarity removed, children from the same family often appear no more alike than randomly selected strangers. Yet, identical twins raised apart are nearly as similar in personality as identical twins raised together. These findings suggest that shared families environment has virtually no effect on personality development, and that similarity between relatives is almost entirely due to shared genetics. Although the shared environment, including features like the personality, parenting styles, and belief of the parents, socio-economic status, neighborhood, nutrition, school, attendant, etc., may have a lasting impact at the extremes of parenting practice, such as outright abuse, most personality researchers have concluded that the majority of average expectable environments do not have an effect on personality development. So a person is always in direct contact with the environment, the internal as well as the external environment. The psychological rehabilitation professionals or workers seek to effect changes in a person's environment and in a person's ability to deal with his or her environment so as to facilitate improvement in the symptoms or personal distress and life outcomes. These services often combine pharmacologic treatment, often required for program admission, independent living and social skill training, psychological support to clients and their families, housing, vocational rehabilitation and employment, social support and network enhancement, and access to leisure activities. Personality development. So personality is a combination of characteristics or qualities that form an individual's distinctive character. Personality development is relatively enduring pattern of thoughts, feelings and behaviors that distinguish individual from one another. And it can also be understood as becoming a better version of you. So the dominant view in the field of personality psychology today, it holds that personality emerged early and it continues to change in meaningful ways throughout the lifespan. Adult personality traits are believed to have a basis in infant temperament, meaning that individual differences in disposition and behavior appear early in life, possibly even before language or conscious self-representation develop. The five-factor model of personality has been found to map into dimensions of childhood temperament, suggesting that individual differences in level of the big five personality traits, namely neuroticism, extraversion, openness to experience, agreeableness, and conscientiousness are present from young ages. Personality, as mentioned earlier, is the sum total of what a person is, behavior, thoughts, and feeling that endure throughout the life. Although some psychologists frown on the premise, a commonly used explanation for personality development is the psychodynamic approach. So the term psychodynamic describes any theory that emphasizes the constant change and development of the individual. Perhaps the best known psychodynamic theory is Freudian psychoanalysis. The structure of personality, Freud conceived the mind as only having a fixed amount of psychic energy, also known as libido. The outcome of the dynamic interaction between the ego and superego, each contending for as much libidinal energy as possible. It determines our adult personality. The tripartite personality, Freud believed that personality has three parts, the ego and superego, referring to this as the tripartite personality. It allows us to get our basic needs met. Freud believed that it is based on the pleasure principle, that is, it wants immediate satisfaction with no consideration for the reality of the situation. As the child interacts more with the world, the ego begins to develop. The ego's job is to meet the need of the ID, while taking into account the constraints of reality. The ego acknowledges that being impulsive or selfish can sometimes be harmful, so the ID must be constrained. The superego, it serves to inhibit the biological instinct of the ID, which results in a high level of guilt, whereas a weak superego, it allows the ID more expression, ultimately resulting in a low level of guilt. So in the conclusion, I'll add that there is often a focus on challenging stigma and prejudice to enable social inclusion, on working collaboratively in order to empower clients, and sometimes on a goal of full recovery. So the latter is now widely known as recovery approach or model. So recovery is a process rather than an outcome. It is a personal journey that is about the rediscovery of self in the process of learning to live within the limitations of the illness rather than being defined by illness with hope, planning, and community engagement.